Hi, I'm Barry Farber, and this is Pain for Gain. What is pain for gain? Well, it's about making sacrifices today for future pleasure. All right, and what do you do to have that pleasure? Well, it's all about how we eat, how we move, and what we think about all day long. And what better guest to have talk about pain for gain than, well, don't go away, because we're going to have Hercules right after this. On Pain for Gain, we spotlight people who understand that every great achievement is built on trial, toughness, and transformation. And today's guest is someone whose career has inspired millions around the world. Kevin Sorbo didn't just play a hero, he became one of the most recognizable action stars on the planet as Hercules, leading one of the most successful syndicated television series of all time. With over 111 episodes and 5 movies and a global distribution in more than 170 countries, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, became the most watched show in the world and turned Kevin into an international icon of strength, endurance, and discipline. But what makes his story truly powerful and perfect for Pain for Gain is what happened off-screen. At the peak of his fame, Kevin faced a series of life-altering health challenges that could have ended everything. Instead, through resilience, faith, and sheer determination, he fought his way back and rebuilt his life, his career, and his purpose. Since then, he's starred in over 90 movies and directed dozens of films, written best-selling books, produced inspirational projects, and became a voice for living with intention, taking control of your health, and turning adversity into fuel. His journey reminds us that even the strongest heroes have battles, and it's how they rise from them that defines greatness. Please welcome to Pain for Gain a global action star, a storyteller, a survivor, and a true example of strength through struggle, Kevin Sorbo. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure. I love the opening. I may take that with me and make my new bio.
Your new bio is great. It's great. Well, you deserve everything in that intro. And after spending this last week reading this wonderful book, okay, every single page, I got to tell you, I'm blown away. There couldn't be a better person for this show. So even before we get into your experiences and everything, your life-threatening illnesses and all these things, let's go back to the beginning in Minnesota and talk about
the beginning.
Yeah, let's go to the beginning.
I grew up in a little town called Mound, Minnesota, which is about 25 miles west of Minneapolis. And I grew up in the shores of beautiful Lake Minnetonka. And my little town of 7,000 people was home to Tonka Toys. A lot of people know that, Lake Minnetonka, Tonka Toys.
Right,
so there you go. My dad, both my parents grew up on farms in Iowa. I'm the fourth of 5 kids. The 4 boys, all of us very active in sports. We all love sports, football, basketball, baseball, golf, all these things. We did things all the time. My dad was an only child. His mother couldn't have more kids. So on the farm growing up, he couldn't play sports because he had to get up early in the morning with my grandpa, his dad, and work at the farm, and after school go back and work till sundown again. So he had 4 boys that live vicariously through us in the sports world, and my parents were so supportive of all of us. My sister was probably a better athlete than all of us, but she didn't have that love for that. But anything they did for all 5 of us kids, they instilled hard work.
Right, the discipline.
Discipline, hard work. You work hard because they grew up in tough times. They grew up, during the Depression, all that kind of stuff. And my father just said, don't expect handouts. Don't expect, people to come to your aid. You got to tough through it. And I started paper when I was 9 years old. And for 7 years, I got up at 4:30 in the morning to deliver the Minneapolis Tribune to 80 homes in all those winters of Minnesota. And by the time I got to be a junior in high school, it became too much to get up because I had too many things going on in sports. But I was able to buy my first car I bought with my own paper out money. I bought a 1967 powder blue Mustang. And I wish I had that car today. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's worth a lot.
It was awesome. But it was to me, that has stayed with me and with my kids. I got 3 kids of my own now. I instilled those same things that my parents did to us. It's hard work. Yeah. Don't give up. There's going to be a lot of failure in life. That's part of life.
I worked in an auto body shop, sweeping floors, shoveling snow. 12 years old, 10. I can make some money like that. It's great. It's a great discipline experience. Mowed the lawn with one of those mowers that had
Oh
the
my
blades
gosh.
go. Oh yeah,
That was my grandfather's place. I used to push that thing with the blades.
Great
pushing it.
workout.
Yeah.
Great workout.
Don't need gas, just push power.
But you had a great upbringing. It
Yeah.
seems like you had a lot of friends. You played basketball. You loved basketball. You're defensive end football.
Defensive
right?
and offensive in high school.
And
I
offensive.
never left the field. Yeah.
So, what did sports teach you at a young age? What did you learn from that?
I think I love individual sports. I love sports like tennis and golf, but I think team sports are really important. I mean, you learn to, it's not like going into war with each other. That's a whole different love relationship. My brother was 23 years in the Army, and but you learn to work together. You learn to work through the good, the bad, adversity. Winning, losing, all that stuff. And to me, that was a huge part in my growing up. And those guys are still my buddies to this day. I still have my guys, but that I've known since grade school.
Right.
And of course a new batch of friends through my college years as well. But they've all kind of merged together. So I go back to Minnesota whenever I can. Summers only, thank you. I don't miss the winters that much. So
Cold there.
It's cold, man. Yeah, I got tired of it by high school. I was tired of cold weather.
But sports. All three kids did college sports, and I think the camaraderie and the relationships there keep you out of trouble and so forth.
yeah.
I think it's just amazing.
No question. I had my own, when the celebrity thing happened, I was the head of after school alliance. It was called World Fit for Kids in Los Angeles. We worked with over 12,000 inner city kids.
That's great.
And it was about fitness. It was about adversity. We had LA Unified is the second worst school district in America. Baltimore leads the way. Baltimore has over a 60% dropout rate. LA has a 54% average. 20 years I'm not doing it more because I live in Florida now, so I can't really be there and have more hands-on. But we work with 12,000 kids in a school district at a 54% dropout rate, as low as fifth grade people dropping out of school.
Crazy.
And what happens with that? There's trouble, of course. We had a 98% graduation rate and a 67% higher GPA. What did we do for those 3 hours after school that the public schools can't do?
What?
So I'm just saying how bad our public school system is.
Unbelievable.
We're homeschool advocates. My wife has written like 5 books on it, travels the country talking about homeschooling. But the first hour is exercise. You need to do it because they're taking that out of school. There's no more arts in school. So I love what Hootie and the Blowfish are doing. They have a golf tournament I play in every year, and that's raising money to get public schools back into the music world so kids can have that creative outlet.
Yeah.
I'm all for the arts as well. I'm all for sports. So that first hour is exercise. If they don't want to play basketball, they want to do dance, whatever, we supply them with that. Because after an hour of exercise, your retention and attention levels spike.
Right.
So what happens to that? The next hour, what do you have in trouble with? Math, science, whatever. We had all these volunteers come and help. Third hour, what's going on in your life? We want them to raise their self-esteem. The girl says, I'm 16, I'm pregnant, what am I going to do? So we're there to talk to them and give them hope.
Awesome. That interaction.
It's a great program. It's still going. I just can't really be part of it.
Made a big difference. I think about what you're talking about now, and I think about your career. Modeling all around the world and getting into film, and sure, I'm condensing your book right now. But when your agents called up and said you can go out for the part for Superman.
Sure.
Tell me about that, because before we get into Hercules, I think
I'm going to backtrack really again, Rico. You want the early days? 11 years old, I go to the Guthrie Theater, very famous theater in Minneapolis. I see The Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare. I don't know what the hell they're saying because I was 11
years
and it was
old. That's when
Shakespeare. But I said, I'm going to be an actor. I told my parents. My mom gave that tap, mom pat on the leg. She goes, that's nice, dear. But the seed was planted.
Right.
But I couldn't tell my buddies that I had this thespian in the closet over here because we made fun of those guys. We thought they were the big wussies. I was a jock.
Right.
So it wasn't until I got into college that I really started going after it. And I signed with a modeling agency, commercial agency, did a bunch of commercials in Minneapolis. A lot of people don't realize that they're the number 3 biggest commercial market in the country. And people don't realize that. Look at the national headquarters: Best Buy, Target, 3M, General Mills, Pillsbury. I mean, all these big companies. So I got my SAG card I shot like 14 commercials during my college years. So I already had that union card. When I moved to LA, I had no problem getting a commercial agent because I had a good reel, a good tape, and I had my SAG card already, and that's the biggest battle. So it wasn't. When I moved there, I plugged through a lot of different acting classes, 3 different acting classes, 2 years with each one. In fact, my last one, I had Brad Pitt in my class and Matthew Perry in my class for 2 years. And I remember seeing Matthew Perry get up there, rest in peace, get up to do a scene. I looked at Brad and said, dude, this guy should be in a sitcom. Of course, he's on Friends a year and a half later. And Brad comes in and does his audition scene for Thelma and Louise. And he gets the part, and he's only in the movie 10 minutes. People are going, who is this guy?
Oh,
Next thing he's telling me, he goes, yeah, I just got this role. I'm shooting with Robert Redford. A river runs through it. So bye-bye, Brad. You know? So I'm going, where's my turn coming? You know, so.
Well, your turn came.
It came. So, yeah.
So I wanted to run to that because I think, you know, in life, I think it's Kipling, the poem says, you know, if you look at triumph and disaster and treat those two as imposters, that is the goal. In other words, to keep an even keel, no matter how high you get or how low you get in adversity. That, you know, I've always been trying, you know, not to, you know, the anger inside, how to keep an even keel. And when I heard the story of getting Superman part, tell that, because that's crazy.
Well, that's easier said than done, and no matter what business. The highs and lows of acting are very frustrating. I think every actor can write the same book. For me, the last couple years before the Hercules thing and the Superman thing, I got to a point in my audition process that I said, if they don't pick me, it's their loss. Because I know I got in my car in the 405 or the 101 in LA, and every actor does this. They start chewing on their steering wheel, just pissed off that why did I do it that way? Why did I do it this way? Right. I got to a point I said, I'm going to go in there. I'm not going to let, you know, you always get nerves. Nerves are good. I remember acting coaches say, use the nerves, use them.
Positive.
But I got tired of beating myself up. I said, okay, I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to walk out, and if they don't pick me, don't pick me. Well, when I got the role on, it was Dean Cain and I done the last two guys. And we did a screen test with Terry Hatcher.
You and Dean Cain, down to the last two guys for
Lois and Clark was the name of the series, yeah. At that time, Lorimar was still part of Warner Brothers. And it was, Les Moonves was the head of that before he went on to be the head of CBS. So I got the role. They called me that night, my manager, and we went out and celebrated. A day later, they called him and said, you know what, we're changing our mind, we're going Dean Cain.
A day, 24 hours, you were
flying the ultimate high to the ultimate low.
You were screaming on the phone to your agent.
And I had plenty of failures before that, trust me. I had plenty of rejection before that. So this time was one that felt, this one probably hurt the most.
But what did it teach you, though?
I'm going to go, I'll tell you where I learned to handle failure, probably more so than from my parents. I used to caddy at this private country club. We talked earlier, I love golf. Right. I golf a lot. There's a sport, my dad was a school teacher, summers he worked at a golf course. Right. So at a young age,
you would caddy.
After baseball practice, I'd go out there and run around and golf and stuff like that. So I'm caddying at this private country club. They're all very wealthy people. I don't go up with any money. School teacher's salary, 5 kids, but I never felt without. I knew there were richer kids in my high school, but that wasn't envious of that. That was motivation for me. Right. So one day I'm gonna bust my butt, you know. So these guys told me, I would ask these guys I'm caddying for, I go, what is it that brought you to where you are today? Whether they're 30 years old or 80 years old, these guys I caddied for. They all said the same thing. Oh, I failed, Kevin. And then I failed again. By the way, I failed for another 10 years. But they didn't give up. He said, failure and no are positive, not negatives. That's right. Too many people, especially in today's world, there's one failure and they just give up. It's like, I want the government to take care of me. It's your fault that I'm not successful. No, it's your own fault. I always say, cue Michael Jackson's song, The Man in the Mirror, okay? Yep. That's the problem. You look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what do I need to do to better my life?
You know, we're going to take a break, but what you just said, we're going to go into in depth. Okay. And then we're going to go into the Hercules part. Sure. Which is just blows me away, that whole story. But I remember somebody saying, you know, failure isn't falling. It's not getting back up. That's true failure. You got to get back up and try again. You got to keep going. I've had so many, whether it's book sales, with any kind of thing that I go into, failure teaches you things that wake you up, that show you the grounding effect that you have when you do get success.
What did every kid learn in baseball? You get hit by the pitch or whatever, or you strike out, you get back in the batter's box.
That's right. Yeah. What is it? 70%. You're 30%. You're 70% failing, and you're a success in baseball.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Right. If you're batting 300, you're making $25 million a year.
We'll be right back with Kevin Sorbo. Hercules. Don't go away.
Introducing Believer's Choice Nutrition, a complete line of delicious nutraceutical gummies designed to support your everyday wellness. Powered by new BioSneds technology, our gummies bypass the liver for quicker, safer absorption, delivering nutrients where your body needs them most. Featuring Manuka honey gummies to support strong immune health and soothing defense, and olive oil gummies to promote heart health and circulation. No pills, no complicated routines. Believer's Choice Nutrition. Believe in yourself. Believe in our science.
Hi, I'm Barry Farber, and I'm so excited to bring you the new special edition hardcover copy of The Adventures of Little Billy in Search of the Magic Tree. Scan the code below and learn more about that adventure. Welcome back. We're with Kevin Sorbo, Hercules, but just an amazing person because of the strength he built through struggle, and that's what we don't want to get into.
Well, we mentioned earlier about losing the Dean Cain got the Superman role. And 3 months later, my agent called me up and they said, hey, they're going to do 5 movies of Hercules. And I thought, okay, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", I'm 225, I work out, but you know, I'm not a no-neck, steroid, 300-pound guy. And they said, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for an athletic guy. Looking at it looks like maybe he's an NFL quarterback or maybe he's a decathlon athlete or something like that. And I said, okay. So I went in for the first audition, and all the actors in there, all athletic guys, but no big bodybuilder guys. And I said, okay, interesting. That's what I'm going to do. I had that audition, and then 6 more followed. I had 7 auditions over a 2.5 month period.
2.5 months.
2.5 months. I kept calling me back, get down to the last 3 guys. So I go to Universal Studios, which was doing this, and I get on the stage. They have there's this big black tower right on the 101 freeway there at Universal Studios. All those actors call it the Darth Vader, where people go to die because it's such a frustrating place to go in there because most people will fail that are trying to get jobs in there. So I get on the stage, and there's like 50 people in this theater. Sam Raimi's in the middle, and there's all these 50 people involved in this process for these 5 2-hour television movies, which I thought, wow, they released them as feature films overseas. So I stood up there and I looked down at Sam Raimi. It was finally the first time meeting him, and I knew who he was. Evil Dead, you know, For the Love of the Game, and all these wonderful movies he's done. And I said, Sam, no one's given me any directions. I got the same scene that I've used every single time. He goes, no, we love what you're doing, just do what you're doing. So I read, and after that, he hits this woman next to him. She says, I'm supposed to ask you to take your shirt off. And she was kind of embarrassed to ask. And I was ripped up. I took my shirt off. I mean, people remember the show. I was in pretty good shape. Right. And I got a very interesting response from the women and the guys, some of the guys. And so I said, I made a joke. I said, yeah, I'm a lot bigger out of my clothes. And they laughed. And Sam said, if you get the role, would you be willing to shave your chest and stomach? I'm not Robin Williams Harry, but I got a little man cover. Right. And I looked at him and I said, oh. I started walking on the stage. I'm sorry, I thought you guys wanted a man for this role. And they all laughed. And I left the next day, and I said, we'll let you know, we're going to choose very quickly now. So I had to leave the next day to fly to Vancouver, and I did an episode of The Commish with Michael Chiklis. Do you remember that series?
Yes.
By Stephen Cannell. So 3 days into the filming, I get a call from my manager. She goes, you got the role. So I walk on the set, and I looked at Chiklis. I said, I don't want any crap from you. I'm now half God. And then I spent the next few months working with Douglas Wong, who's one of Bruce Lee's original students. Right. And we worked out every day for a couple of months before I left for New Zealand to film. And it was all, he's a thing called the White Lotus Kung Fu method that he created. All this training, all this weaponry, all the falling even, you know, all stuff. We talked about during the break here, you talked about you falling on concrete, you know, you got trained that way. And it was amazing. It was awesome.
I've loved Bruce Lee. I love reading his stuff, and unfortunately he died too young. But what did he, Wong, Mr. Wong, right? What did he teach? Is there one thing that you remember that really stuck in your mind?
It reminded me of one of my football coaches, discipline, more than anything else. Commitment to the work, commitment to the practice, commitment to doing it over and over again until you get it perfect. And then when I got down to New Zealand, I got to work with Anthony Quinn, 6-time Oscar nominee, 2-time winner, Lawrence of Arabia, Guns of Navarone, Zorba the Greek, all these great movies. And I became such good friends with them, and it was so cool to work with them. Halfway through the 3rd movie, something happened on the set. And I looked at the Michael Hurst, who played my sidekick Eolus, who was a New Zealand actor, a big stage theater actor. This is his first really big break in the TV world, you know. And I said, Michael, I think they're going to make this TV series. Why? He goes, there's nothing like it on TV. You got action, you got fun fight scenes, you got humor, you got beautiful women, there's nothing like it right now on TV. This was before, I still think Hercules kind of started it all. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, Universal call says, we love it, you're staying down there. So it became a 1-hour series. Halfway through the 3rd series, the 3rd season of the series, we became the most watched TV show in the world. And as anything does in Hollywood, everybody tries to copy success. So we spun off Xena Warrior Princess in season 3. Well, that same season, Sheena came out. Conan, Tarzan, Robin Hood, Sinbad, all these shows tried to copy what we were doing, but we still kicked their butts. And it was just an amazing part, you know. Peter Jackson used to come on the set because he was writing Lord of the Rings at that time. I lived in New Zealand for 7 years. So he wanted to see the crews developing while he was writing Lord of the Rings trilogy. He took 90% of my crew when we finished filming after our 7 years. and they all went on to win Oscars. And Peter invites me to one of the Lord of the Rings, one of the Oscar parties, Oscar when they won all these Oscars. And he said it was your industry that started, your show started the industry in New Zealand. And I said, well, that's a wonderful comment, but you didn't give me one bloody role in Lord of the Rings. I said, I guess I should have done that, but I was too busy. I had another series called Andromeda that I did right after that for 5 years.
Now, you're doing Hercules, number one, 176 countries, number one watch show in the world.
Yeah, crazy.
And then something happened. Okay, something happened, and we can share it now.
Sure.
I think it's probably.
I wrote a book.
I read, I read this front to back, and I can't believe how many things and struggles you went through that nobody saw, nobody knew, because you kept it low key.
Universal kept it. People knew, but they kept it pretty quiet. And I think being in New Zealand made a difference. I was a world away too. So halfway through, actually, the last couple months of season 5. We shot 10-month seasons. I was having all kinds of problems with my left shoulder. I couldn't figure what was going on. The hand was killing me. These fingers were numb on these 3 fingers. And I was just like, what is going on? I was doing most of my own stunts because I loved it. There was the athlete in me. My stunt guys were awesome. They made me look like a stud anyway. But I loved it because it's like a dance, but it was physical. I was getting sprains and cuts and bruises. And I think the worst accident I had is one of the guys hit me in the back of the head with a sword.
With a sword, right.
Woke up in the hospital with concussion and 14 stitches.
I was reading. I couldn't believe that happened also.
And luckily he hit me on the flat part of the sword. This probably would have killed me.
The other side, you would have been done.
Yeah. Oh, he missed his spot by so bad. His eyes were closed when he was, because I
you ducked low.
I ducked really low.
Right.
He should have been up here, and he was 4 feet lower, and his eyes were closed like this. And I said, okay, that's not going to happen. So that I'm lucky. But so I get back. I had just done the year before a movie called Kull the Conqueror during my break. Kull was the father of Conan the Barbarian. So it was my first big budget movie. It was a $40 million movie for Universal. And I was on Letterman, Leno, doing all the talk shows, but my arm's killing me. I'm up in Boston doing more publicity. I felt like my arm was on fire. The studio sends a doctor to my hotel room. His name was Dr. Dye.
Dr. Dye?
Yeah, D-Y-E. Change your bloody name, dude. You're
right.
It's just a bad name for a doctor. He says, I think it's cardiovascular. You should get this checked out. I get back to my doctor in L.A. I was about to start another movie with Meatloaf at that time, before going back to New Zealand and start season 6. They find a lump way up here in my left subclavicle. He says, I need to do a biopsy on this thing. They couldn't figure out what it was at the time. I go to my chiropractor the next day. Now, in 8 years, he's never cracked my neck because I don't like my neck cracked. Leave it alone. I'm laying on my back. He's working on my shoulder. A voice says, don't let him crack your neck. In my head, seriously. Don't let him crack. Repeats itself. And I'm thinking to myself, he's never cracked my neck. He knows I don't like it. All of a sudden, he cracks my neck. I suffered 3 strokes.
3 strokes?
It was an aneurysm. They've been spitting out blood clots slowly down to my arm for months and months and months, suffocating the blood flow into my hand. And that snap of the neck this way, because where it was located, doctors call it retrograde flow. For just a split second, blood backed up. Sent 3 clots, and I could have been killed instantly. I could have been in a wheelchair the rest of my life, paralyzed. It was balance center in my eyes. I was 50% of my vision was gone. I've 90% back now. I still have a 10% area in my upper right quadrant that I can't see anything out of. It took me 4 months to learn how to walk and balance again. It took me 3 years to fully recover.
So I'm reading your book, and a big portion talks about your doctor visits, lying on the couch, your the music, the lights, things that were just torture that nobody knew about, and how you went through and had that discipline in the beginning definitely helped you. But tell me what you've learned. Look, this is a short segment here, but we could talk for like 10 days about this based upon what I read. What did you gain from that has built a foundation later on? The
foundation's the key word. The foundation was built from my parents, no question. That's where it started. I'm a Christian. I'm not perfect in any way, but I have my belief. I have a strong drive inside of me, instilled by my father, probably more than anybody else. And obviously my coaches through sports, the drive to get better and better and better and work hard. And my wife, who's a tough New Yorker, Pittsburgh gal.
She's amazing.
And every time I got down, she said, Kevin, it happened. What are you going to do about it? She would not let me feel sorry for myself. She gave me a mantra. I said, every day when you crawl yourself to the bathroom, I want you to look in the mirror and say, I'm getting better, I'm getting stronger. Say it every day. She made me write the book. I didn't want to write the book. I don't want the world to know how bloody weak I'd become, because the male ego, right? I'm playing Hercules. I'm ripped up.
Maybe
now
then.
I can barely get out of bed,
But that I respect you 10 times more than just reading about somebody who's an actor in a top series because of what you went through.
Sure.
You appreciate things. You appreciate your wife. I mean, she was amazing what she sat through all this time, but your family and now
Well, she married. We got married 4 months later.
Right.
I looked at her and said, we don't need to get married. I said, I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't want to be an invalid to you. She stuck by my side.
Unbelievable dedicated.
Yeah.
But season 3, episode 8, that's where you actually met her on the show,
We met
right?
in season 4.
Oh, I thought it was 3 in episode 8. Princess, no?
Well, you're right. Season 3 of the 1 hour series. I call it season 4 because 10 months on a full year in the movies to me is a year.
Right,
but
right.
yeah, so yeah, she came down. It was called Prince Hercules. She played a princess, and I worked on her pretty hard. I'm a big flirt, and she looked at me on the very first night I'm hitting on her.
Yeah, but you had love at
And
first
she looked
sight,
at
it
me.
seemed like.
Oh yeah, I did. And we're love and lust mixed up, I guess. But
That's awesome.
She laughed at me. She goes, "Kevin, I don't date actors." So
funny.
I wore her down, and we had our first date was amazing for both of us. And we got engaged within 6 months, only knowing each other for maybe 3 months, because she came back down into a 3-show arc for the next, later on the next season.
Yep.
And that kind of locked it in.
Just amazing relationship you have with her. I want to just finish with something going into like struggle is wakes me up. When everything's going great, I get worried sometimes. Am I not working hard enough? Am I not pushing myself? Am I not trying things? And people, there's a circle where you get comfortable, and if you go outside of it, and people say, that's not the way it's done. You don't do it that way. You can't. And some people just are afraid to go out because of ridicule, failure, setbacks, or people, what they think of you. And I found that later in life, unfortunately, I wish it happened earlier, that transparency is everything, is to share what you believe in. So I want you to share with me, and we can talk about this, what are some of the key things about adversity, about understanding pain, about looking at things about your body and what happens to you, to realize, and one of the things you realized was that you have a choice. You have a choice of how you look at things. And tell me about what are the things that went on.
Well, I think no pain, no gain doesn't just apply to physicality. It applies to the mental aspect of it as well. It's how do you get through it? Everybody's gonna have roadblocks in their life. How do you react to those roadblocks? You're gonna blame God. You're gonna blame a God you don't believe in. You're gonna blame the government, your friends, the teachers of the world for your problems. And I think far too many people do that.
If it's to be, it's up to me.
Yeah, there's injustice out there all the time for all of us, and you can sit there and point fingers and stuff. But the reality is, what are you gonna do about it? And I think that was the biggest thing for me, was to fight through the negativity. Because when it happened, my career was cruising. I could have had a much bigger film career. But this thing, Hollywood looks at you and goes, I don't know, he had this happen to him, that happened to him. But, thank God I was able to finish the series. I went from an 18-hour door-to-door to about a 5-hour door-to-door. It became a whole different thing, building up slowly. But then I went straight from that into Andromeda. I'm a big Star Trek fan. So I'm the first captain.
Every episode
I'm
10
the first
times.
captain after Captain Kirk, created in 1969, Captain Dylan Hunt, Gene Roddenberry. So I got 5 years on that, and then since then I just started doing a bunch of movies. So
What's your definition of success right now today, based upon all the things you've gone through?
As corny as it sounds, family, friends, still more than anything else. That's the most important thing. My buddies have not changed since I was in high school and college. We're still sarcastic jerks to each other, but that's out of love.
That's the best.
I remember when I first got Hercules, 3 of my best friends flew out to LA, and we went out golfing in Palm Springs before I moved to New Zealand. And the whole time they're going, so when you get angry, do you turn green? I go, no, that's the Hulk.
That's the Hulk.
I'm the Herc,
Funny.
But they already want to give you crap before the series even starts. And I think that's great. It grounds you, keeps you in there. I think my upbringing makes a difference. I'm not a Hollywood guy at all. I've never really come. That's why I lived 40 miles outside of LA.
You're very grounded.
I think that comes from how I grew up in a small town.
Right. Well, my mother was a nurse. Your mother's a nurse.
Yeah.
My father worked in, as an art teacher, vice principal. Your father was a
Biology and math teacher
in
junior high school.
biology.
35 years of puberty. I said, Dad, how did you manage that?
I just want to tell you, we're going to have you back on for another show. And I wanted to say it's a pleasure, Kevin.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
It really is. Kevin Sorbo.
Go to sorbostudios.com.
Yes.
Sorbostudios.com is a place to follow, and get a copy of the book. I'll autograph it.
Make sure. Sorbostudios.com. We have it up on the screen for you to do. And this is a great book and well written. Unbelievable.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time on Pain for Gain.